Hi, I'm making a fruit crisp for those vegetarians that you've been lucky to meet. I want to assemble my crisp first so it's out of the way and can be held all day long if need be. We want a baking dish. I'm going to spray it with a Plumb baking spray so the crisp doesn't stick. I'm going to start by cutting up my peaches and plums and filling them with dried cranberries also. This is the first part. Slices. You can leave the skins on for this dessert. The dinner I'm going to make for you tonight is a rather elegant vegetarian dish with puff pastry and different vegetables and cheeses. And you can also assemble that ahead of time for the dinner and just have it ready in the refrigerator for when your dinner guest comes. Plums, the same thing. Cut around the pit. This dessert is going to be layered in a wine glass or a bowl and served with vanilla ice cream, or if you prefer whipped cream, or both. You can be decadent and use both. You need about, depending upon the size of the peaches and the plums, anywhere from 4 to 6 each. Again, depending upon the size of the peaches and the plums. You want to fill it pretty much up as much as you can because they're going to bake down. Generally it takes about 45 minutes in a 350-degree oven, start to finish. I have some dried cranberries. Just want to sprinkle a few of them in there. You can use, if you don't like cranberries, you can use raisins. Next I'm going to take the zest of a lemon, put some in here, along with the lemon juice. About half the zest of the lemon and lemon juice. Use the whole lemon. I like to put some honey in this. I would say the amount of honey is a couple tablespoons. I also want to put in a little bit of brown sugar. The topping is going to be brown sugar and white sugar, flour, oats, white flour, and whole wheat flour. I like to mix it up, and your hands here are your best tools. I have half a pound of softened butter. To that I'm going to add a cup of white sugar, a cup of brown sugar, a cup of flour, white flour, and whole wheat flour. and a cup of rolled oats. And this you want to mix up with your hands, is the best tools again. It takes a few minutes. I'm going to add an extra cup of oats. One thing about baking, if it's very humid, things like this crisp topping with flour absorb a lot more moisture, so you kind of have to, it's like a feel for whether it needs something else. If it's like too melted when you're working with it, you could add a little bit more flour, it's not going to matter, but in this case I like the oats. And this is pretty much the consistency of it. I'm going to take and spread it fairly evenly on this fruit crisp or cobbler, depending upon where you are in the States, what they call it, from one place to another. So you pretty much want to cover it so that you don't see hardly any fruit showing. I'll just pat it down. And people generally like a lot of the topping. It might seem like a lot to you watching this film, but trust me, it's not. Preheated my oven to 375. If you have a metal pan, you want 350. I'm going to put it in the oven. I'm going to bake it for half an hour to 45 minutes, depending upon how your oven runs, because I need 2 shelves for the vegetable strudel. Now I'm going to make for you a very elegant, easy entree. It's done with puff pastry. It's called vegetable strudel. And this is a frozen product you can already get pre-made for yourself. But first I'm going to cut up all the vegetables and have them ready to saute. So I'm cutting an onion, fairly small pieces. I have already pre-made chopped garlic that you can buy in almost any grocery store today. But it's nice to have all your veggies prepped already. I have some shiitake mushrooms. Those are these. All you do is pinch off the stem. So I'm going to slice them. This is for flavor. Shiitakes are used in a lot of your Oriental cooking, mainly, more than any other mushroom. I'm going to use regular button mushrooms that I was able to buy pre-sliced today. This is a portobello. This actually tastes similar to steak. Also going to have red pepper. Want it in a little bit thin strips. Carrot. Carrot I'm going to cut in half, half again, and then I'm going to cut as fairly thin pieces, as thin as you can get them. A lot of Oriental cooking is the veggies are cut on the diagonal, like I'm cutting here. Again, thin strips. And I'm going to try and do thin strips with the squash. I have green and yellow. This is the time of the year that when they're the freshest out in the market. Same thing with the yellow squash. Cut off the ends. Cut it the same way you do the green squash. Next, the broccoli. I'm going to cut down through it. Cut off if there's a dry end you don't want. And this you want to cut into, leave the florets, like so, and then you can cut the little ends. When I'm done cutting up the vegetables, I'm going to go to the stove and saute them. That's the second step. And then I'll show you how to assemble them in the puff pastry for the strudel. I'm now going to saute the veggies to put inside the vegetable strudel. I prefer sauteing them. You can steam them also, but I prefer sauteing. I have about 2 tablespoons of butter and the rest olive oil. Because I'm sauteing a lot, I probably have about 1/4 cup of oil. Onions and garlic first. Fairly high heat. Just want to, what they call, sweat the vegetables so they become translucent. And then you start adding the rest of them. Mushrooms will take up a lot of oil. I've got some dried thyme and some basil here. I had some fresh. You can freeze basil. It freezes really well. I can add my mushrooms to this. Add some salt and pepper. I prefer kosher salt. Fresh grind black pepper. You're going to taste for the seasoning afterward. Just let these start cooking down. Instead of steaming the vegetables, I'm going to semi-steam them in here because I'm going to put a little bit of white wine in for the flavor. But in case somebody's a non-vegetarian, you could use some water, you can use vegetable stock. But in this case, I'm going to put some white wine in here. Next, I'm going to add my broccoli. And at this point, I'm going to put in some white wine. I would say I'm going to put in about 1/2 cup. When the broccoli starts steaming down, sauteing down, I'll add the rest of my veggies. Now I'm adding the last of my veggies so they can steam and saute down. That's why you need a big frying pan. You could do it in a couple of different frying pans and then put it together later on if you don't have a big one. You don't have to go out and buy one. At this point I'm going to add a little bit more salt and pepper. Just let it cook down a little bit by itself. At this point I'm going to turn it off and let it sit while I get the dough ready, puff pastry dough. I'm going to spray the pan with, in this case, an olive oil spray. You can see that the dough is softened. So I'm going to put it in the pan I need to roll it out a little bit. Since it's the summertime, it's also very pliable that you can pull it out a little bit. Because I'm going to need to put this into the fridge to have cold for like a half an hour before I bake it. I'm going to try and have it evenly spread out. That's one. I'm going to be baking 2 of them. I'm going to put this one in the refrigerator. Next, I want to put the steamed veggies in the strudel. Next, I'm going to grate some Parmesan on top of the veggies. Fresh is always better. Again, the cheese is personal preference. You can do any combinations. In this, I'm going to use Parmesan and Gruyere, Swiss Gruyere, and a little bit of Munster. Gruyere. Next, I'm going to fold it up. You want to stretch this dough as much as you can without tearing it. Kind of tug on it a little. The other side, flip it over. Again, tug. And you're going to tuck it under the edge. Then I'm going to vent it with a knife to allow the steam to escape. And put it in the refrigerator for half an hour to an hour, ready for your dinner. Puff pastry works better when it's cold. I'm going to crack an egg because I have to make an egg wash. Put over the strudel. You want to beat 1 egg. Put in a tablespoon of water. Mix up the tablespoon of water. Need a pastry brush. And you're going to brush the egg wash on top of the strudel. You're going to make sure your oven is preheated to 400 degrees. This was in the refrigerator. It works best when it's taken right out of the refrigerator. And you can put it in the oven. And it's going to bake for anywhere from a half an hour to 45 minutes. It's going to puff up and be golden brown, and then it will be done.